All right, we are back with more Factorio. Here we go. I am Pax, and today we are doing a base tour of our space exploration base. We are just on the verge of finishing up all of the specialist sciences in space exploration, so all 16 of these extra science packs that require the off-world resources. We got one left to go, but I am just about to restart the series, continue on, trying to make it to the end of the game, and so I wanted to do a little base tour, catch everyone up, check out the base, and yeah, just talk a little bit about what's cool, what's fun, what works, what doesn't work. And so we're up here at the space station and flying around in my jetpack, checking out our train network. And as you can see, we built on a little bit of a theme here in the space station, which is to have these sushi belts everywhere. So all of the different catalogs for the different types of sciences are all built on these sushi belt style builds. And what was really cool and what enabled us to do this was to build these special types of or two-way, yes, special two-way junction that interfaces with Logistics Train Network. And so Logistics Train Network is a mod that you can install for Factorio, of course, but we've been using it throughout the playthrough. But up here, I realized that one thing we could do was create a train station that can serve as both a provider and a requester. And this has been really quite a fantastic mechanism to build on and make the theme of the space station. And so the way it works is basically, normally you of course can put negative numbers into a combinator like this and plug it into the train network, and the negative numbers will request and the positive numbers will provide. And so the combinators set the request, and then whatever's in the storehouse here will tell the LTN system what's provided. And then what you can do is set up some logic with all these inserters to make sure that the train is either loading or unloading according to the LTN request. So when LTN is requesting an item for the train, this combinator down here will output the items at once. And essentially what happens is this logic basically compares what the request is to what's on the train and sets these inserters to load items onto the train that are being requested. And anything that goes beyond the exact values in this request number will then be pulled off by this other set of logics and the inserters that pull off the train. And this way, the system will pretty much get exactly the amount requested, and if not, it'll pull off. And then basically there's one little extra mechanism here where we use this signal S to control the stack size of these output inserters. And this way they will adjust their stack size to match exactly the amounts that are needed. So here we can see we're asking for 70 of the catalogs, and so probably overfilled it slightly, and then that overfilled bit got pulled back off. And then whenever a provide train comes, the inserters will basically just take everything off the train, because there will be nothing on the requester output, so everything will come off. And this has been working really well. Like, there's one kind of bug that happens pretty persistently that causes it to mess up on occasion, but the space has been, you know, pushing onward, even though this happens sometimes. But essentially, what can happen is if the item being requested is almost, if it's requesting almost all of it, like it's almost out, then this this little mechanism to set stack size might mess up because basically it always rounds up essentially. And so if it's off by one, these two inserters will both have their stacks set to one, and but then they'll pull off two things. And so then these inserters will then be reactivated and put the two things back on. And it can get stuck in a loop like this where essentially two things go on and then two things go off, and it jumps around, missing its target value by one. And sometimes this can cause it to get stuck, but it's not too big of a deal. The LTN will eventually time out and the train will move on. And sometimes, though, that can still cause like some gunk to get mixed up into the network. But that's why I have what I like to call the box of shame over here, where when the trains go back to the depots, whatever, if there's anything left over in their inventories, it just gets pulled out just to make sure that the system runs pretty smoothly. But even with this bug, it still works pretty well. If anything, I kind of wish I used a full-on warehouse and made it the 6x6 size chest here, just for a little bit more throughput, but it's been working pretty well. And of course, here is our original space station base where we started the sushi belt concept and used these deep space transport belts, and still running strong. We've upgraded a lot. It's doing a lot of things now. Superconductive cable and a lot of the thermofluid and the data cards have now been expanded and put onto the main train system. So eventually we got to the point where we got the space elevator. And so let's go look at our space elevator setup now. So the space elevator, yeah, I kept the design pretty simple. It's just a train track and tried to keep it pretty minimalistic. And one thing I think that was pretty useful is to create this kind of false chain signal here. And basically, these two rail signals are hooked up to the other end of the space elevator. And essentially, if something on the exit is blocking the train, this signal will turn red and prevent the train from going in the space elevator. And same for this signal. If a train is stuck here for whatever reason, it will send down signal to the other end to prevent it from coming up, just to make sure there's no weird things happening at the space elevator. But the space elevator is just really overpowered in a sense, because then it was a lot easier to do a lot of the logistics things, and especially building liquids. So we eventually built this space elevator system for doing our chemical gel and thermofluid and other liquids. And now we have these kind of trains that go up and down the space elevator. So one downside of the space elevator and the logistics train network is that they don't really interact. So the LTN can't manage trains through the space elevators. So instead, any train that goes through the space elevator is actually a standard normal Factorio train that has a typical go up, go down, and get full, get empty type of schedule. And so these just manage transferring things from the space elevator to space, or from space to the ground. And similarly, near the space elevator, we have some transfer systems for sending cargo up the space elevator. So essentially, we built a system that was kind of like our rocket supply system, where LTN is used to control the supplies, and the combinators here set the requests of the items that we want. But then instead of going onto a rocket, they just go on to a Factorio space elevator train that just gets filled up. And then we built some logic over here to help the train decide when to go up. And so basically all it's doing is making sure that there's at least like 1,000 or so items before it launches, and maybe like 30 seconds have passed. And with this logic, we've just been able to then use LTN to bring up arbitrary amounts of items and keep it balanced. And so these three elevators are the primary suppliers of the space station now. So they come up here, and then there's another transfer junction where the space elevator train gives its cargo to the logistics train network in space, and then now the LTN network has access to all those supplies. And there's another train that directly feeds the science labs here and brings up all the materials for doing the specialist science research. And of course, another big part of the base at this point is now our spaceships. Yes. So we have a couple of spaceships out here mining for us. And so we needed more holmium, and we needed more uranium and beryllium to feed the base. And so we built some spaceships that are kind of modular to supply us some more materials. And I'm really proud of these spaceships with the way they work. We kind of had this design where I would have kind of different nodes of the spaceship in this blueprint book that I could put together. And so generally we'd slap down some engines, slap down some warehouses, some logistics, power, and of course the best part of it is the control system for helping the spaceship manage where to go. And basically there's some circuit logic here that tells it what to do, and it's pretty easily programmable. And generally right now the spaceships, what they do is they have a provider location, a requester location, and the refueling stop. So they come over here to get refueled over here by the rocket fuel or over here by ion stream. And essentially these combinators down here do the checks for deciding that the spaceship should leave. So here the spaceship's at the requester, in a sense, transferring the ores onto the space elevator train over here. And basically this just makes sure that it has enough fuel and power, and once all the ores are gone, it will send the launch signal. But this space station also uses these numbers to help the control system decide where to go. And so basically the provider is usually channel 1, or it sends you to channel 1, which is then going to be the fuel stop and things like that. So then these 4 combinators up here are telling the spaceship what to do. So essentially, the right now the channel 1 comes in through the red wire and goes into this combinator, which has a feedback loop. And so this combinator acts as a memory cell, and so this will just hold the value 1 persistently until it arrives at the next destination. And when the signals here get set to -1, it'll essentially erase the memory cell, and then the positive signal will maintain the new state. So that's how it gets written. And then these combinators just to say like, okay, which state are we in? 0, 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 0, 1, or 2, or 3, I guess. And then each state has its own constant combinator that you can program to tell the spaceship where to go. So essentially you tell it which clamps to target to and the destination. So in essence, this spaceship will go to the refueling stop here. This is the refueling stop in Novice orbit. And then it's going to go to the moon Shara, where it's going to pick up the holmanite ore. And then when it comes back, it's going to come to the 3rd clamp instead of the 2nd clamp. The 3rd clamp is now this unloading station. And so then the spaceship will come here and unload and then repeat the cycle and fly around and give us stuff. And so, yeah, it's been a pretty cool way to do the spaceship logic, and I've really been enjoying these spaceships. So yeah, so that's basically the kind of new ideas in the space station and the new logistics for how we've conquered all of the specialist science. And we are on the verge of course, getting ready to go get the final resource, the Naquitite, and so we'll need to build another set of spaceships for making the long distance journey. All these spaceships are solar powered and can only really manage going to the inner solar system, but we'll have to make some new spaceships soon enough. And if we look down on the ground, I'll just also uh, talk about the main base on Novice. And here we have, of course, our distributed train network, where essentially we built all these production facilities all over the place, which all exist in their own kind of robot port network, more or less. And they're each managed by one of these logistics train stations here, and it's been really useful system to build and get things moving. And essentially the logistics stations request any items that we need for building. And one thing that's been really useful is this ghost scanner mod. So this allows us to put down ghosts effectively, and any ghosts that get put down will be picked up by the ghost scanner mod if they're not, here already, I guess. Yeah, but then that will be able to signal to the LTN network items to bring, and so it's very easy to just build whatever we want to with ghosts and have the LTN network bring whatever buildings we need to build it. And then, of course, there's also these recycling centers. So anytime items are removed and put into these storage chests, they get once they reach a threshold, they'll signal for the recycling train to come, and then the whole system recycles it. And then the main base, I just will also admire the main Cars on Belts hub here and just brag about how awesome it's been. And yes, we've been able to then, of course, design this system with cars running on belts, and it does all the logistics for most of the stuff in the base now. And basically, you can just put the cars on the belts and set the filters and set inserters kind of one away from the belts, but they can reach into the cars and pull off from the cars and put onto the cars. And there's just a ton of throughput, a ton of different items that you can get. This is sort of like having an 80 lane bus full of items compressed down onto one belt. So pretty dense, nice way of doing logistics in Factorio. We built this like awesome train station here to interface with the cars on belts, and it's been building basically all of the logistics items. And we built here all of the higher tier off-world resources like holmium cables and beryllium poles, heavy girders. We build modules and the third tiers of stuff, the fourth tiers of stuff. We have even LDS over here, all the science packs. We got bio scrubbers and vitalic reagent and vitalic acid. All of the things got built here, and it really kind of was just a really great way of doing all the major logistics for the game. And it's been carrying us for quite a while now, and it's almost completed here. We have exports train stations where we export all the modules and capsules. Some basic logistics items get exported. All these higher tier off-world resources get exported, and of course there's maybe 8 or 9 stations for imports. And we are able to use the LTN to make each station request multiple things in order to get all a couple dozen things brought in at pretty high throughput. So yeah, that's the cars on belt space, and has a couple of also space elevator trains that interface with the space station. So So here we have just like bots regulating the space elevator train here to bring stuff up and down from the orbital the space station, and then come up here and interface with the Roboport port network up here. And yeah, then this is then the base as it is right now, on our way to the final stage of the game. And so stay tuned for the playthrough to start back up and see how far we get. See if we can finish this game and win. We'll see, we'll see. So I'll call it here though. This will be the overview of the specialist science era of the space station. And I'll see you back in the playthrough. There you go, Factorio. I am Pax. See you soon.